We're talking to Dr. ARain and Ms. Hussein. Dr. ARain is the outreach director for the Islamic Center in Nashville, Tennessee. And of course, Ms. Hussein is about to give us some information, Ms. Hussein, in reference to Pakistan, because you're the author of a history of the peoples of Pakistan. So let's pick up with you, Ms.
Well, also I was thinking of personal memories when I was living in Pakistan in the early 70s. I remember sitting in Quetta, Baluchistan in Pakistan, talking to the wife of the Afghan consul there. And she was explaining how Afghanistan used to try to balance influence of the United States and the Soviet Union. And if they took some aid from the United States, they would take some aid from the Soviet Union to keep them balanced. Well, the next year, in 1973, I happened to be in Kabul switching planes during the coup when the Afghan king was exiled. I was in the airport, I saw all these soldiers, I didn't know what it was about, but later I realized it was a coup in Afghanistan. And then, of course, the year after that, Russia invaded Afghanistan. And we immediately started seeing Afghan refugees in Pakistan, and a lot of them looked like me. They were very pale-skinned, blue-eyed, and of course they dressed in Islamic garb. And then a lot of people mistook me for an Afghan refugee. So, as a member of the United States State Department, I taught at the International School of Islamabad. I saw the United States getting involved in this. We actually, one of my fellow teachers was smuggling arms into Afghanistan for the so-called mujahideen, the so-called freedom fighters against Russia. And of course, by 1979, we were actually paying Osama bin Laden, who became Al-Qaeda. We were paying these people, supporting them, building them training camps, building them bunkers in Afghanistan to fight the Soviet invasion. And of course, this came back to bite us later, because now Osama bin Laden is still there on the border of Pakistan, but now he's fighting us.
And go on, continue that.
Just to add on the same thing, that at that time we had a military dictator in Pakistan, and he had no legitimacy for his regime. And in order to legitimize his regime, he used that opportunity of fighting against the Soviets. The CIA wanted us to fight against the Soviets and arm these mujahideens. So the Pakistan army, the Zia-ul Haq, the ruler at that time, took that mission and gave a religious name to that as jihad, or a holy war, as a result of which people all over the world, from the Muslim world, came to Pakistan to be trained. Not only the Afghans, refugees, they were trained, and all these people were armed to the teeth, and they were sent back to Afghanistan to fight the Soviets. At that time, the war carried on for several years, and then the Stinger missiles was the main addition in the armamentarium, and that really turned the war against the Soviets, and Soviets were forced to withdraw. So in 1989, Soviets withdrew. At that time, the U.S. also bade farewell to Pakistan and the Afghan Mujahideen. There was no government installed at Kabul. And these Mujahideen, or freedom fighters, for acquiring the power and rule in Kabul, they started fighting each other. At that time, these people would have been rehabilitated by giving them, taking up in the paramilitary forces in Pakistan or Afghanistan or the army. We would not have had this chaos, what we are facing right now, because these are the same people, or the generations of the same people who we armed back in '89.
And now it's a real question in reference to Pakistan and Afghanistan. Now, the Soviet Union was sort of the country that was able to hold both these countries together and have them cooperate in a real sense, because they were all fighting against the Soviet Union. Is that correct?
We were united. Afghanistan and the United States, Saudi Arabia, were all united fighting the Soviet Union. When the Soviet Union crumbled, first they were driven out of Afghanistan, then the whole Soviet Union crumbled. Unfortunately, we give Reagan benefit to say, oh, he fought the evil empire. The Mujahideen, Al-Qaeda, Osama bin Laden, they thought that they had defeated the Soviets. So then they turned their eyes on evil, you know, the satanic
Infidel.
American infidels. They decided, okay, we defeated the Soviet Union, now they can defeat the whole West, the whole non-Islamic West. These are a small group of fringe extremist fundamentalists. They don't represent the wider Muslim world at all, which does not want to destroy us, but this small group. Unfortunately, we nurtured this group. We encouraged this group, and now the chickens have come home to roost, and they've turned on us.
Well, now, in view of some of the things that are happening now, Dr. ARain, I think you've watched television and news reports and et cetera. What do you see the United States' position in terms of dealing with this issue of Afghanistan and Pakistan?
First of all, it's a very complex situation in Afghanistan. Afghan people are very free-spirited people. Through centuries, they have never accepted any domination by the foreigners. And British learned this lesson, that they got bogged out. Similarly, Russians learned that. Alexander the Great could not take hold in their land. That has been their character. They fight each other, they're a tribal society, they always fight each other. Once a foreign invader comes in, they forget and they unite. And that has been what we are facing in Afghanistan right now. Since US and NATO forces are there, that has only strengthened these Taliban or Mujahideen, and there has been an uproar in Afghan society because of these civilian casualties, which have been because of the drone attacks as well as the air attacks. That has been driving these people, these villagers, the common people out in the refugee camps. And if you look at certain reports from Taliban, they say that the highest recruitment they have for their power or their army is from these refugee camps. So we are in a catch-22. Certainly we need to look back. It has been 8 years that we are in Afghanistan, and we have not achieved victory or achieved stability there. So we have to look back and reconsider our policy. The question about upsurge, this idea has been floated.
And of course, that's a very, very important item, and we want to make sure that we have an opportunity to talk about that. And we'll also allow you to make some additional statements when we come back from this second break, because that is one of the things that we want to talk about. Of course, we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. These days, we're talking to